All right, welcome. Today, we are going on a fascinating journey to figure out something we use every single day, but let's be honest, rarely ever think about: money. We're going to trace its entire story, all the way from the beginning to the really complex systems we have today.
So let's just start with this little thought experiment. Imagine for a second, what if, to get your lunch today, you couldn't just tap a card or hand over some cash? What if you actually had to find a cafe owner who not only had the sandwich you wanted, but also just happened to desperately need a new pair of shoes in your exact size? Kind of crazy, right? Well, that little scenario, that's our starting point for a world without money.
And that brings us right to our first stop, the barter system. This was the OG way humans traded stuff, way before coins or bills were even a thought.
So what is bartering? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It's just a direct swap of goods and services, a commodity for a commodity. You know, I'll give you this bag of wheat for that piece of cloth. Or maybe I'll teach your kid for a week if you give me some rice. It sounds straightforward enough, but in practice, yeah, not so much.
Okay, so let's get into it. Because while the idea of direct trade is nice and simple, the reality was just full of massive problems that made life incredibly inefficient and, honestly, super frustrating. The absolute biggest hurdle, the number one problem, is this mouthful of a phrase: the double coincidence of wants. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It just means that for a trade to happen, you have to find someone who has the thing you want, and they have to want the thing you have, all at the same time.
I mean, just think about the sheer luck that requires. You've got rice, but you need sugar. So now you have to go wandering around trying to find a sugar farmer who just so happens to be craving rice right now. The chances of that happening consistently? Almost zero. It's a huge barrier to getting anything done.
But okay, let's say you get super lucky and you actually find that person. Great. Now you have a whole new problem. How much rice is a bag of sugar worth? Is it 1 bag for 1 bag? 2 bags of rice? 3? Without some kind of standard measure of value, every single trade is a brand new, painful negotiation from scratch. It's totally arbitrary.
And then you've got the divisibility problem. This one's a doozy. Let's say everyone agrees that 1 horse is worth 5 sheep. Awesome. But what if you only need 1 sheep? You can't exactly offer up 1/5 of a live horse, can you? A lot of valuable things just can't be chopped into smaller pieces to make a fair trade.
And the problems just keep on coming. How do you save for your future when your savings account is a pile of wheat that could rot or a bunch of cattle that could get sick? And forget about making loans. If I lend you a young, healthy cow today, how can you promise to pay me back with a cow of the exact same quality a year from now? It's basically impossible.
So, as you can see, humanity was kinda stuck. All of these problems were grinding trade to a halt. We needed a better tool. We needed an invention that could fix all of these headaches at once. And that incredible invention was money.
And here's where it gets really elegant. This slide lays it out perfectly. Money isn't just one thing. It's a tool that does 4 very specific jobs, and each job directly solves one of those big barter problems. It acts as a medium of exchange, so you no longer need that double coincidence of wants. It serves as a measure of value, which gives everything a standard price tag. It's a store of value, so you can save for the future without your wealth rotting away. And finally, it's a standard of deferred payments, which makes loans and contracts actually work.
You know, there's this great little rhyme that sums it all up perfectly. These 4 functions are the superpowers of money. They are the reason it was such a revolutionary invention for all of human society.
So, humanity figured out what money needed to do. But that led to the next big question. What should we actually use for money? The answer didn't just pop up overnight. It's been this incredible centuries-long process of evolution, this epic search for the perfect thing to do those 4 jobs.
In the very beginning, we just used what was valuable and nearby. So livestock, like cows and sheep. Then we moved on to other commodities, things like seashells, rice, even tobacco. But all of these had issues. Cows die, and seashells are only valuable if you live by the coast. Eventually, we landed on metals: gold, silver, copper. And why? Well, they were kind of perfect. They were durable, you could divide them easily, they were easy to carry, and most importantly, they were rare enough to hold their value. But lugging around heavy, valuable coins was a pain, and it was dangerous. And that led to the invention of paper money. And from there, in our modern world, it's evolved even further into bank money, which is really just digital numbers in an account.
So after that whole long journey, what exactly is the money we use today? I mean, the paper bill in your wallet, it isn't backed by a cow or a chunk of gold. So what actually gives it any value at all?
Well, the answer is that almost all modern money is something called fiat money. Fiat is just a Latin word that means an official order or decree. So, this money has no value in and of itself. It's valuable for one reason and one reason only, because a government says it is and orders that it must be accepted for payments. Its entire value is based on our collective faith and trust in that government and that system.
And inside this fiat system, we really interact with two main types of money. First, you have legal tender. That's the physical cash, the notes and coins. If you owe someone a debt, they have to accept it as payment. It's the law. But then there's bank money, which is sometimes called fiduciary money. Fiduciary just means it's based on trust. This is the money in your checking account. When you write a personal check, nobody is legally forced to accept it. It only works because of the mutual trust between you and the person you're paying.
So, from trading actual cows to just tapping a plastic card, the story of money is really the story of an ever-evolving technology. It's always changing to make trade easier and more efficient. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Now that we've moved from physical objects to government promises to digital code, where does this evolution go next? What do you think money will look like 100 years from now?